Hello and welcome to the Business Channel. In today's episode, we'll be exploring the steps that need to be taken by governments, businesses and private individuals to achieve the goal of a low-carbon Britain. A key driver in reducing carbon is the government, led by DEC.
The need for a secure, low-carbon energy supply. This is absolutely crucial, and we are taking a number of steps to attract the private sector investment that we will need to have a decarbonised grid in the future. We're also investing in carbon capture and storage, which is a technology that will enable perhaps dirty fossil fuels to become clean in the future, and we have clean energy produced from coal and gas and so on. So that's a big imperative there. But we can't act on this agenda alone. We need an international agreement, and we're working very hard to secure that. We need a level playing field. I think there are two parts to this. Firstly, on the supply side, we need to ensure that we are harnessing the potential for renewable technology that we have in this country, be that wave, wind and so on. In fact, we're already global leaders on offshore wind technology. But we need to ensure that the next generation of offshore wind technology is brought on stream, overcoming some of the barriers to that, such as access to capital finance for that. And therefore, this is an area that we hope the Green Investment Bank will be able to help. Also, on our electricity market, we want electricity market reform to open up the market to new generators and suppliers of electricity, of clean electricity, that we need in order to decarbonise our supply going forward. Now, secondly though, on the demand side, this is very important, that as well as clean energy supply, we need to ensure that we're using that energy in the most effective and efficient way. So on the demand side, we want to focus on improved energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is a win-win, reducing the amount of energy we use, and therefore reducing carbon emissions, but also reducing the energy bill as well. So it is a win-win, but it's not happening enough at the moment. That is where we want the Green Deal to really help. The Green Deal is a flagship policy that will help householders and businesses to reduce the amount of energy they use in their buildings through the installation of energy efficiency measures. And the unique thing about the Green Deal is that it tackles one of the main barriers to improved energy efficiency, which is having the upfront capital to carry out those improvements. The Green Deal will enable those improvements to be made without any upfront capital required. So there we have it. We need increased supply, but we also need to better management of the demand of our energy.
It's down to business leaders to be proactive in reducing their company's impact on the environment. Our reporter Jane Bennett-Powell met up with one company that's helping organisations to identify inefficiencies and to implement new green policies.
From the Business Advisors Grant Thornton, I'm joined by Nathan Good, Head of Energy, Environment and Sustainability. Can you give us an overview of Grant Thornton's role in this sector?
Yes, Grant Thornton is a leading financial advisor to public and private sector parties investing and developing in waste and renewables projects, and more recently we've expanded that out to include the sustainability and the energy efficiency sectors as we've seen the market evolve and the need for more complex and integrated solutions to delivering the low carbon agenda starting to emerge.
How important is the green agenda now?
Well, I think it slightly understates the importance of the agenda to call it the green agenda. It's really about resources, it's about how we adjust and adapt in business terms and as individuals and communities to a world of finite resources, and really that's what all of us are trying to achieve at the moment, and in that sense is extremely important. It affects all of us.
How do businesses become low carbon?
There's no magic bullet for this. Businesses have to develop a range of strategies, including energy efficiency, clean energy generation, looking at their supply chains, how they deal with waste and manage their resources, and put that within an overarching strategy that is flexible enough to adapt over time.
Now we can turn to Neil Rutledge, a partner at Grant Thornton. Talking about the green agenda, is renewable the only solution?
Well, we see renewable energy as not the only solution, but a major part of the solution. We must remember that fossil fuels will continue to be the majority source of energy in the country for a significant period of time. What's more interesting is we see the role of reducing demand for energy is actually a key driver. So the energy efficiency agenda is an important part of how we will meet our targets going forward.
With the transition to a low carbon economy, one hopes, will there be a demand for new skills, new jobs even?
Well, what's been interesting to see is how the jobs agenda and the skills agenda have gone hand in hand with the low carbon agenda, and of excited enthusiasm of public and private sector alike. They see the skills involved in these type of jobs as being essential to their own futures.
What about SMEs? Are there business opportunities for them to follow the sustainable route?
Absolutely, we see the SMEs at the heart of this agenda. It's very interesting to watch how supply chains are shaping up to the low carbon agenda. You get some of the small and medium-sized enterprises adopting the newest technologies first and later being picked up and taken to scale by some of the larger corporates. And working together, which is an area where Grant Thornton could have advised, seems to be an important way for that to be successful.
Have you got an example of where following a sustainability route has actually helped somebody's business prospect?
Well, we are working with a client of ours who has been advising the low carbon sector across the SME space, and they themselves has gone from turnover of 9 million to up towards 100 million in only 2 years, showing the extent of growth that this sector can deliver.
The need for business to reduce carbon has created a whole new industry with substantial growth opportunities, but the growth potential in the consumer market is also significant. Long-established brands are creating new products to help householders do their bit for sustainability too. One such organisation is the retailer Sainsbury's, and I caught up with their business development manager to find out more. Well, joining me now is Adam Zeiderman, who's Business Development Manager for Sainsbury's. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we're going to talk about Sainsbury's provides energy now. Now, tell me about that and which partners you're working with.
Yes, we have Sainsbury's Energy, which is in partnership with British Gas and started in partnership with British Gas on the 9th of February 2011. And we provide gas and electricity contracts to our customers, loft and cavity wall insulation, solar PV, and also home energy assessments for our customers as well.
Now, to the customer, what are the benefits of becoming low carbon? Does it actually save them money?
Yes, it does. In fact, the consequence of saving money on your energy bills is lowering carbon in the households. So customers, through simple behavioural changes or through insulating their loft or their cavity walls, can very quickly recoup the money they spend on those activities with the savings they make on their energy bills. So in the short to long term, they can easily make back those savings on very simple measures within the home.
Now, you say simple measures. What kind of simple measures are we talking about?
Well, it can start from very basic behavioural changes to turning off a light switch in a room as you leave it, to turning down your thermostat by 1 degree. In fact, the Energy Saving Trust say by turning down your thermostat by 1 degree can save about £60 on your yearly energy bill. So very simple behavioural changes don't really cost anything, but can save money on your bills and therefore save carbon. Then a very effective level is actually insulating your loft and your cavity walls. By insulating your loft, a customer can save up to £145 on their energy bills each year. And by doing their cavity walls, about £110 on their energy bills each year. And then there are other measures which are much more expensive when it comes into solar. And that's about saving money on your electricity bill. In fact, solar panels on your roof can save up to 50% of the money on your electricity bill, and also generate an income through the feed-in tariff as well, which will help subsidise the cost to the customer over a period of time of the outlay of those solar panels in the first place.
So what are the barriers, do you think, to customers taking up these low carbon solutions?
The barriers for customers taking up low carbon solutions primarily would be cost. For example, solar can be £10,000 outlay straight away. And for loft and cavity wall insulation, cost can be an issue. It can cost a couple of £100 for each product, but it can also be a lack of understanding of what those products will actually do to help the customer save money in their home. So what we try and do in Sainsbury's is we try and have information leaflets at the checkouts which talk about the product. We have information on our websites. We have a call line that customers can call, and we have experts in stores which can try and explain to customers the benefits of why they should buy and install loft and cavity wall insulation, and obviously the benefits of what solar and PV can give them as well.
You say some people have a lack of understanding. Is there anything you'd like the government to be doing in terms of raising awareness about these issues?
Well, I think the government has tried to raise awareness, especially the Act on CO2 campaign that they launched. The more information there is out there, the better it will be. As long as customers can freely access information to understand how to save energy in their home, the better. And I think the Energy Savings Trust tried to do a good job as well by giving people some really good information when they call up or go onto their website.
Adam Zeiderman, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
As well as reducing their impact on the environment, companies that embrace sustainability benefit from cost savings, efficiencies and an improved public image. One prime example of this is the construction industry, as Jane found out.
Interserve is an international support services and construction business, and its CEO is Adrian Ringrose. What are the benefits of reducing carbon?
Well, benefits to all of us are avoiding the worst impacts of climate change. Carbon emissions are, I think there's a strong scientific link with climatic change. For a business like Interserve, low carbon means a market opportunity, though, to develop products and services to help our customers get on top of managing their environmental impact.
So are all the benefits environmental, or can you see others?
Well, I think there are benefits to the environment almost self-evidently, but the benefits are non-environmental too, for a business, for products and services to develop, for us as consumers to move to using more efficient and therefore lower cost technology over time. There's an economic benefit for us. And there are also other sort of tangential benefits of having something positive to say about moving towards low carbon for our people, for people joining our organisation, knowing that we stand for something, is part of the force that draws them towards us as an employer.
Does low carbon equate to low energy?
No, I don't think it does. It certainly shouldn't. We need energy to live our lives, so low energy takes us back towards the dark ages. Making that energy more efficient and less carbon intensive in the way it's generated and used is the answer. So moving to greener fuels, migrating towards electricity rather than combustion for transport and heating is part of the solution. So it's about decarbonising the energy that we use rather than necessarily reducing the levels of energy that we consume.
How important is sustainable management, and how is it achieved?
Well, I think sustainable management is vital. The way we think about that is try to couch all the decisions that we make for the long-term impact as well as for the short-term impact. So I think you achieve that by a state of mind. I think it has to come from the top, but to be successful, it has to be well communicated so that it reaches everybody in the organisation. Like anything organisationally, what we're trying to do is change people's behaviour.
It's a massive change of emphasis, isn't it, over the last 20 years or so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the sense of responsibility for the generations to come, impacting what we do and what we choose to do today, is a very profound change.
Is renewable energy the key to reducing CO2, or are there alternatives?
It's certainly a big part of the solution. Generating electricity from wave power, from solar power, is certainly going to make a good contribution, but there are issues around reliability that we haven't yet fully got on top of. So I think technologies like nuclear power generation will play their part. And of course it's not just about the production side of the equation. Demand management needs to come into it too, so the way that we consume energy needs to be managed on a lower carbon footing as well.
Adrian Ringrose of Interserve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Managing energy supply and demand in infrastructure projects will play a key role in helping Britain achieve a low carbon economy. And it's the facilities management sector that will be responsible for this element of the green agenda.
To talk about the Facilities Management Association, I'm joined by Chris Hoare, its Chief Executive. How important is the green agenda to industry?
I think it's extremely important. Not only is it driven by legislation, but it's also driven by common sense. Obviously, if we are going to make sure that our children's grandchildren have a planet to live on, then industry has to take very seriously the effects that we actually are having on the world. And the FM industry has a very important part to play in that, because we look after the air conditioning, we look after the structure of buildings, we look after the roads infrastructures, the rail infrastructure, so therefore we are in a position to try and improve the way in which those industries operate to make sure that the environment is well looked after.
Is renewable the only option?
I think it's difficult because probably 90% of the building stock in the UK is old. Now, if you try to turn Buckingham Palace as a Grade 1 listed building into a zero carbon building, it's going to be extremely difficult, and it's going to be extremely difficult to use sustainable materials. But I am sure that the FM industry, who do look after Buckingham Palace by the way, will try their hardest to make sure that they conform to the regulations and the legislation and to make it as green as possible.
How do companies become low carbon?
Companies become low carbon by looking at their source of energy, the use of sustainable materials, the monitoring of energy use, and the way in which their organisations and their people actually use the working environment is very important. So I think that's the way companies become zero carbon.
And governments, are they helping or hindering from your point of view?
I think they're helping personally, because they've put legislation in to help people realise the importance of the green agenda, and they have provided lots of information so people understand what they need to do to become zero carbon. So I think they're helping. And the industry's embraced the government legislation, so they must feel the same.
What are the new skills that are needed in the push towards low carbon?
I think people need to understand about sustainability, renewable energy, the different sources of energy. I think people need to understand how to use innovative IT to help them with the way in which the building is run, building management systems, simple things like, monitoring power at individual workstations now is available through the IT industry. So all those little things add up to make sure that we are looking after our energy sources.
As the idea of low carbon comes in, how great an impact is it making?
I think that's very difficult to say. It's a bit early. And we are quite a small nation. Okay, we have a large population, but compared to the USA, South America, China, who have much bigger agendas, but we still have our part to play, so I think it's a bit early to tell yet. But I know that the industry is working very hard to make sure the green agenda is prominent in all discussions.
If you were to send viewers away with one notion of how the green agenda is affecting facilities management, what would that be?
I think we have learnt a lot in the last 5 years about control of waste, different use of energy, different sources of energy, sourcing materials. The supply chain is very important in making sure that sustainable materials are sourced, and that people understand the legislation and what it's driving towards. So I think, we've come on leaps and bounds in the last 5 years. Long way to go, but we're going to get there.
For any organisation, the first step in a carbon reduction strategy is to develop a clear understanding of current energy requirements. For major retailers, who may have thousands of outlets across the country, each of them requiring heating, lighting, air conditioning, and for food retailers, refrigeration, this is no small undertaking, as Bob Richardson from Oaksmere explained to me.
We actually provide energy solutions as well as the contracted delivery of those solutions for major end users within the UK and Central Europe. Those clients include Marks & Spencer, John Lewis, Waitrose, Tesco's, etc. Within those clients, we evaluate their energy profiles and usage and then benchmark them against initiatives which we've developed over the last few years, and then put a proposal together to them to actually reduce energy and obviously carbon footprint.
Now, is it all kinds of energy or mostly just refrigeration of food you're looking at?
It's all kinds, basically, because refrigeration is one of the biggest energy burners in a supermarket's environment, followed by HVAC, which is heating, ventilation and air conditioning, closely followed by lighting. So we look at those three top areas, and then we cascade down from those areas as well, even down to water usage, for example.
And what are the main things, the things that make the most difference that you do for those clients?
The main thing we do for our clients is to actually evaluate their current operating parameters and systems and evaluate against good practice and updated control systems from the knowledge we've gained in the last 10 years working in that sector. These initiatives actually cascade down to, for example, optimization on refrigeration, lighting control, which is linked to occupancy or daylight lighting control feedback, and water usage against systems as well.
Now, when we're talking about refrigeration in supermarkets, say, I mean, they're always just set at, say, plus 4 degrees Celsius, and that's it, isn't it?
Food refrigeration within supermarkets typically operates between 0 and -2 for chilled and fresh produce, -18 for frozen food, and up to 8 degrees for produce, which is lettuces, etc., salads, etc. Those conditions bring with them an energy penalty. For example, the lower you go down in terms of temperature, the more energy you burn. Obviously, controlling those temperatures on a hot, humid day takes a lot of energy as well. So we look to optimise the refrigeration effect on those cabinets, cold rooms and the food chain to reduce the energy associated with refrigeration within a store.
So what kind of savings could your clients make?
Typically, for clients, we can save in the order of 15 to 40%. That's obviously capital dependent, and we normally work around a payback period of 4 years. Savings would be delivered through the use of adaptive technology in terms of controls and or new latest developments in terms of motor control, refrigeration optimization, lighting control linked into ambient and also occupancy sensors. So typically anywhere between 15 and 40% on a typical retail environment could be saved subject to capital requirements.
Really significant savings.
Absolutely.
And I mean, presumably all of the major supermarkets are looking at how to optimise their refrigeration. There's no one doing it the old way.
Yes, all the supermarkets in the UK are looking to optimise their efficiency in terms of refrigeration and HVAC lighting, because obviously anything that we save in terms of direct energy is a cascade effect into carbon footprint and also down to the bottom line.
Bob Richardson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
New government requirements for carbon-free buildings will revolutionise our approach to construction, as Andy Ford from the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineers explains.
In terms of building the low-carbon economy, we have been set challenges by the government and by the European Union to slash carbon intensity by 80% by 2050 and to deliver zero carbon new buildings by 2019. Now, nobody's ever built a zero carbon building, or arguably they claim they have, but effectively no new buildings are yet zero carbon. So now we as an organisation have to help our members learn from each other how they're going to do that so that all new buildings can be zero carbon. And then we have to understand how the whole of society can change all its building stock so it remains low carbon. There are approximately 26 million buildings existing in the UK. The rate of replacement of those buildings means that we could replace the whole lot in about 400 years. We have to reduce the carbon impact of those buildings by at least 80% by 2050, which means refurbishing one a minute.
Some design and architecture firms have already found ways of incorporating best-in-class energy efficiency into cutting-edge designs.
Avanti are an international award-winning design consultancy with a head office in central London. We work across both the public and the private sectors, providing advisory services but also in delivery of projects. Our reputation is built on innovation. We've worked on a number of UK first projects which have redefined their building sectors and looked at creating new working practices and a new building type. One of the challenges we have more recently is dealing with international markets and against the backdrop of rising fuel prices, depleted resources and seeking to improve our urban environments. We're here today at New London Architecture. This is the centre of much of the debate that's taken place on the built environment. More recently, this has been about reducing energy consumption, both in the new buildings and also in existing infrastructure.
Within the energy efficiency drive within the industry, we have seen for a long time that it was focused mainly on the mechanical and engineering side of elements. We have realized that we need to incorporate also the functional use, both the current and the projected one for the future, into that assessment. To make that possible, we have teamed up with consulting engineers Helen Kirkwood and created the Carbon Surgery. The Carbon Surgery is unique as it allows clients to receive a balanced and well-considered report and analysis at an early stage in the review process of their estate. One of the major benefits for estate managers is that the express report makes it possible for them to decide where to focus their efforts. For example, instead of upgrading a building which might be knocked down in 5 or 10 years due to functional redundancy, they focus on a building that will be there for another 50 years.
As architects, we deal with both new buildings and refurbishment projects, and they require different strategies to try and reduce their carbon content. It is simpler with new buildings, but also there are many things that we could do in terms of retrofitting solutions into existing buildings. One of the changes that we've seen over the last 5 years has been the growing awareness and culture of measurement, of setting targets and raising standards. And this is partly about going back and looking at projects and seeing how they're occupied. For example, a project in Hackney, Hackney Free and Parochial School.
One of our current projects, which is a new secondary school in Inner London. It's on a noisy and very constrained Inner London site. And we've designed the footprint and we've developed the envelope to allow good natural ventilation. The full-height windows that we've got on the facade, they get light deep into the classrooms and they minimise electricity usage. We integrate these into the scheme very early on. On this scheme, for instance, the external louvers, we've used them as a way to introduce colour into the design of the building, both inside and out. And the exposed concrete soffits that we've got in all the classrooms, that sort of helped to generate the slightly industrial aesthetic that we have in all the interiors and gives the interiors a little bit of texture as well.
In order to address climate change, one of the fundamentals is trying to reduce our carbon emissions. Buildings contribute a huge amount to this area, and as architects we are responsible for working out solutions to try and reduce our energy consumption.
In the past decade, sustainability has soared to the top of the public agenda as industry, governments and individuals recognise the environmental and financial importance of reducing carbon emissions. Britain still has a way to go, but it has made enviable progress. Well, that's all we've got time for now, but if you'd like to find out more about any of the organisations that we featured in this programme, then go to our website, thebusinesschannel.tv. Bye-bye for now.